أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome in everyone. So today, we're taking a really gentle, deeply reflective journey into the closing verses of Surah al-Munāfiqūn, specifically verses 9 through 11. In this explainer, we're going to explore both the outer meanings and the beautiful inner Sufi path of these verses. We'll be looking at the somewhat subtle nature of distraction, the real spiritual weight of our wealth, and ultimately the absolute cure for our hearts while there's still time to use it.
Before we really dive in together, I just want to take a brief moment to express some sincere humility. As we seek this wisdom with ikhlas and proper adab, spiritual etiquette, please do forgive any slight mispronunciations of sacred Arabic terms by our AI voices. We're approaching this text not just as some dry intellectual exercise, but really as spiritual companions, seeking to polish the mirror of our own hearts together.
Okay, let's jump right into this. For the first 8 verses of this surah, the Qur'an gives us this pretty intense forensic diagnosis of hypocrisy, the Munāfiqūn. And it's so easy for us to read that and think, well, okay, that's them. That's definitely not me. But then, right here in verse 9, the Qur'an suddenly turns this unflinching mirror inward. It speaks directly to us, the believers. It warns, do not let your wealth and your children distract you. It completely pivots from naming the disease in others to pointing out the very seedling of that exact same disease inside our own selves.
So that brings up a really fascinating question. What actually distracts us? Notice here that the Quran doesn't condemn wealth and children at all. In fact, elsewhere it calls them the beautiful adornments of life. But beauty carries its own specific kind of spiritual danger. The danger isn't the gift itself. It's how that gift can slowly, almost silently, pull our gaze away from the giver. Like, how do the absolute most beautiful blessings in our lives become our greatest spiritual distractions? Well, what's really interesting is the exact word used for that distraction, which in the Quran is called lahu. The classical scholar al-Tabari points out that lahu isn't just, mindless amusement. It actually means being so fully occupied with one thing that you completely exclude another. It's this slow, quiet leakage of attention. It's whatever ends up taking the place of our dhikr, our remembrance of God. And the great Sufi teacher al-Qushayri, he says lahu is so incredibly dangerous exactly because it doesn't oppose remembrance directly, it just quietly competes with it, stealing our focus away day by day. To really grasp the depth of this, we need to look at both the outer and inner readings. The Zahir, or the outer classical reading, might make us ask ourselves, okay, how much wealth do I really own? But al-Qurtubi points out that this verse applies to literally everyone, completely regardless of your tax bracket. A person with just a single ox can be just as distracted by it as a billionaire is by a massive corporate empire. Then you have the batin, the inner spiritual reading from scholars like Sahl il-Tustari. This shifts the question entirely. It's no longer how much do you own, but rather how much owns you. Even our good deeds, our pious acts, can become a spiritual disease if our ego starts claiming ownership over them.
Which leads us to a pretty profound diagnostic check for our own souls. What is our heart's true qibla? Think about it. When all the noise of the day fades away and absolutely no one is watching, what direction does your attention naturally swing toward? What occupied your mind today so completely that when the time for remembrance finally came, there was just no room left for it? Answering that honestly, well, it reveals what we're truly devoted to. The great al-Ghazali diagnoses this absolutely beautifully. He teaches that the love of wealth is actually far more dangerous than wealth itself. Why? Simply because love is a property of the heart. And the heart is literally the only vessel meant to hold the divine. So by simple arithmetic, every fraction of the heart that we surrender to the love of accumulation is a fraction we've withdrawn from the beloved. If we start relating to our blessings as things we possess, rather than as temporary loans, they end up completely eclipsing their source.
And this is brilliantly illustrated by the inner geometry of the Quran through the abjad mysteries, the numerical values hidden beneath the Arabic letters. The word lahu, or distraction, reduces to the number 5. And 5 is the number of the threshold. It represents a doorway that we approach but ultimately fail to cross. Meanwhile, olad, or children, reduces to 6. 6 is the number of the heart. It's the number of equilibrium. When our children and our wealth are honored simply as gifts, they harmonize the heart perfectly. But when they displace God, they fracture that equilibrium, turning the believer into what the verse literally calls a loser.
So, if we all carry this little seedling of distraction inside us, and if it's this slow, quiet leak that can go unnoticed for literally years, what's the antidote? How do we cure our hearts before our time, our own deeply personal appointed deadline, simply runs out? Well, thankfully, the Quran doesn't just diagnose the illness and leave us without medicine. In verse 10, it offers a beautifully precise prescription.
That prescription is infaq, charitable spending. Now listen to the profound linguistic connection here, because it's amazing. Infaq comes from the exact same root as nifaq, which is that disease of hypocrisy we saw earlier. Hypocrisy is this multi-exit duplicity, right? It's a hiding away. But infaq is the absolute cure. It's a single-direction outflow toward God. It is the deliberate opening of the closed hand. It's giving away a portion of what we've been given to basically retrain the muscle of the heart and build our tawakkul, our absolute, unwavering trust in God.
And what's incredibly cool is how modern science directly echoes this 14th-century-old wisdom. We all know about the hedonic treadmill, right? That accumulating more stuff only gives us a temporary little spike in happiness before we just adapt and start feeling empty all over again. But psychological studies on the generosity effect show that spending on others produces a massive, sustainable increase in our well-being. Functional imaging even shows our mesolimbic reward system literally lighting up when we donate. We are neurologically hardwired to be rewarded by this outward giving, this infaq. It's amazing.
But there is a really terrifying urgency to this cure. Verse 10 contains what is probably one of the most heartbreaking prayers in the entire Qur'an. It's the desperate plea of a dying soul. Lord, if you would only reprieve me for a little while, I would give in charity and become one of the righteous. This isn't the cry of someone who didn't know the truth. No, it's the cry of a soul that finally sees clearly, but sees it way too late. The contract has expired.
And the absolutely crucial point here is revealed right in the numbers. In the Abjad system, both infaq, our charitable giving, and ajal, our appointed deadline of death, reduce down to the exact same number, 7. The arithmetic here is breathtakingly exact. The spending and the deadline are the identical number. The entire structure of this verse is urgently telling us, your 7 of giving absolutely must perfectly precede your 7 of the deadline. Our giving has to be timed perfectly, right now, before that door permanently closes.
This Quranic urgency is completely validated by modern hospice research, too. Bronnie Ware spent years documenting the deepest regrets of the dying. And do you know what they were? I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had stayed connected. It's this universal, crushing realization that attention spent on accumulation was attention literally stolen from meaning. By placing this deathbed regret right in our hands now, the Quran is staging a brilliant intervention. It's forcing us to face our mortality so we can shift toward generosity while we actually still have the agency to do so.
Let's move over to verse 11 and see how this all builds to a close. The surah ends with a definitive statement that no soul is reprieved when its time comes, and it closes on the beautiful divine name Khabir. Khabir doesn't just mean the one who knows cold hard facts. It means the intimately aware, the one who knows the felt texture, the absolute grain of your inner experience. The Sufi masters remind us that this isn't the cold surveillance of a courtroom. It's the profound intimacy of a friend, or like a mother who knows her child's smallest footstep in the very next room. The auditor of our hearts knows us way better than we know ourselves.
So how do we actually apply this in our daily lives? Well, here is some actionable spiritual guidance, our tezkiyah for the week ahead. First, audit your relationship with wealth. Just ask yourself, if your wealth doubled tomorrow, what remembrance would you lose? Second, practice infaq directly against your ego's resistance. Don't just give what's easy. As Al-Ghazali says, give exactly what your lower self most reluctantly releases. That soreness you feel when you do that, that's literally the medicine working. And third, rehearse that deathbed plea right now. Imagine asking God for just a little more time to give. Whatever you would promise to do in that desperate moment, go do it tomorrow.
As we bring this to a close, let's take a moment to reflect softly on this munajat, this deeply intimate prayer. O Kabir, whose ledger holds my smallest breath, loosen the hand that grips what was your loan. Let me give now what death will ask too late, and bring me to your meeting half my own. Amen.
Compiled with gratitude by Mir Ali Shah, a seeker sharing through the Living the Wisdom of the Quran explainer. As you close this screen and return to the noise of your day, what is the one thing you will choose to give away tomorrow, before the opportunity is gone forever?